Yes, every week we will take you under the Stotts-O-Scope. It's a name we've made up. Jeff is an athletic trainer by trade, but we've now given him a medical degree. Jeff, I think you're going to need a white lab coat and a Stotts-O-Scope actually for these segments as we go forward. But you do a phenomenal job at this. You're passionate about it. You take a look, and every week we're going to take a look at one specific type of injury, and you are going to give us your diagnosis, your analysis on it. So this week under the Stotts-O-Scope, where are we going, Jeff?
We're going to the foot, and we're looking at the fifth metatarsal. So that metatarsal is the outside bone in the foot that connects the toes to the midfoot. And you can see here on this illustration, you've got the fifth metatarsal. And it jumped into the news this week when Ahmad Bradshaw had to leave the field to go have an x-ray done on his fifth metatarsal because he has a surgical screw inserted in there. And you can see in this picture that there are multiple types of fractures that can happen to that fifth metatarsal. The scariest one is the Jones fracture because that area is very poorly vascularized, and so it takes a long time to heal, and that's usually when you see the surgical screw inserted. Now this is where it becomes a big problem because when the surgical screw is inserted, you've got a couple issues that can happen. One, if the surgical screw is actually too small for the athlete, it can fail. I know that sounds kind of weird, but the bigger the screw, the better in this case. So you can see in this illustration, this is an x-ray. This isn't Bradshaw's x-ray, but it's an x-ray of someone with the Jones fracture and a surgical screw inserted. And you can see right where it is, and you can see where the head of the screw is. That seems to be the problem for Bradshaw. He said he's sore, and that's really bugging him right in where that head of the screw is. So I really think this is something to keep a close eye on because the injury is easily refractured and the surgical screw can fail, so his inherent injury risk is always going to be pretty high.
So is it more of a matter of pain? In other words, could they have used a bigger screw with Bradshaw, and now is it just dealing with the pain? And if that is the case, is it a matter of just shooting him up on Sunday to get rid of the pain?
Well, the other issue is the fifth metatarsal is an area where muscles attach. So you really have some pain when you use some of those muscles that attach to the site. You can get actually what's called an avulsion fracture. If the contraction is so strong, it'll pull away a piece of that bone. With Bradshaw, they likely use the appropriate screw, but there is a high incidence of failure, so you got to keep a close eye on it. But you really want to pay particular attention to this to make sure that you're not trying to play through the pain and there's not another crack in there. They did an x-ray, but I would anticipate them doing some kind of other test, probably a bone scan, to ensure that there's not another crack somewhere in that area or if the surgical screw is still in place.
Jeff, it just dawned on me that 3 short weeks ago, I was sitting here bragging and debating with you about who I was going to trade from my crowded backfield of Javid Best, Ahmad Bradshaw, and Ryan Matthews. And we've now just touched on all three of them in our injury analysis in this situation. And I'm looking to pick up Michael Bush and others off the waiver wire. Welcome to fantasy football.
This year in particular has just been extremely filled with injuries. I would love to see a study of somebody to take a look at how these players spent their offseason with the lockout, and if many of them didn't really do much as far as working out or conditioning, because we have seen just a huge number of muscle pulls, a whole lot of overuse stuff, and it would be huge to see if there was any correlation between the shortened preseason and the injuries that we're seeing.